Hi, I'm Marty Grizzanti, and this is The Marty Grizzanti Show. As a full-time real estate investor and business owner, I have a real fascination of finding the key principles for business success and personal development. This show is a reflection of my personal mission to find out what truly makes somebody successful in business and in life. We will find tools and tactics that they've used to reach those levels. If you're the type of person who is not satisfied with average and you have a hunger for learning that will never cease, this show is for you. Welcome to the show. Guys, I'm really excited because this is one of my really good buddies, and he's someone who's absolutely changed my life. And I say that because I could have gone down the wrong path in regards to, maybe surgery. I could have done a lot of things that would have been a really poor choice if I didn't have somebody who was watching my back and doing it and literally watching my back, watching my neck. And this guy really knows his stuff, and it's important for him to tell us and to continue to tell me, hey, you got to get this right, or what's the point of any of this, right? If your health isn't there. So guys, welcome to the show, Dr. Steve Fose.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure.
No, dude, this is good. Like I said, it was important to have you on, but I wanted to, before we go into kind of who you are and what you do, because I do want you to give everybody a little bit of your background. I got to ask you this one question. You have a lot of urgency, right? I feel like you have a lot of urgency in what you're doing. My thing that I've seen, because obviously I'm on here talking to people who, have their own business, who are high performers, who are, like I said, entrepreneurs, people who want to take a side hustle to their main hustle, athletes. One thing that I think that separates some of the average to the exceptional is having that urgency or having that internal like beating clock that's like, hey man, you got to get it going. I mean, obviously I know you have children and that's a big part of it, but you had this before that, so I'm not going to let you use that excuse. What do you think that urgency comes from for you?
So first of all, I agree. That is a part of my personality that, again, I don't know, there's pros and cons to everything. So it's not like, because we're driven, it's always, rainbows and butterflies. Like there is some downsides to that, and knowing there's a balance, and, there's only 24 hours in a day, and understanding that balance is probably the hardest part for, I would say people that are in my shoes and feel they're the same way. I don't really know I don't know where it intuitively comes from, but I can say that, I don't know. I've always been the underdog a little bit, and, maybe it's a little brother syndrome. I don't know. I've had a lot of patients come up to me and say, "You're the youngest, aren't you?" And they kind of joke around, but I guess I am. And so, maybe being smaller in sports, that always played a role. Maybe just the little brother syndrome. When it comes to my personality, I'm just extremely, I can't stand when I don't know the reason why. That's the big, I don't care if I'm wrong or right. I like to understand the reasons why. And so I don't care if we're talking about, how to build a pool. I just got a pool installed this week, and understand, even though I'm paying for it done, I like to understand why things are being done the way they are. And I feel like my personality, I'm very type A, and there's a efficiency, productivity type of mode that I like. Well, not that I like to be in, but it's just where I function at the highest. It's the way I'm most comfortable, is being high productive, but having fun too. Like there's this just constant bliss that I get from being productive and enjoy how I'm doing. It's just like the most satisfying feeling there is. So I just enjoy it. It's just, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a perfect. That is actually, I never thought of it, the little brother syndrome. I know that that certainly is one of the, and I never thought of it. That's probably a portion of why I have the urgency, but I like accomplishing things, right?
Yeah.
And feeling, right?
Problems. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a physical therapist, right? So I have to solve painful problems for people very quickly, and I don't have time to not get them better in a day or two. Like I have to solve problems now and understand all those dynamics. So, it's funny because I don't know, you do something very different than I do. But when I watch your content and I watch why you're doing what you're doing, I see the passion that you have the same way that I do. And it's funny how many parallels I see in your job that surprise me, that keep me coming back to watching your stuff, because it's crazy, but there's so many parallels in regards to, and I'm going off a little bit on a tangent that maybe was a question later on, but when I see your breakdown and your analysis of how to get to your client to come to a mutual agreement, that is literally my job. It's just in healthcare. It's just in healthcare. Same concept. You have to break these barriers down. You guys are at a standoff, a negotiation, but you're trying to do the same thing. But you're thinking about it two different ways, and you have different values on certain things. So watching you break down your negotiations of, well, how do I get to this person to sell the house or flip this house or finance this thing? It's funny because I do the same thing. I have someone come into my office and say, dude, I'm just here because my doctor told me to. I got arthritis. I don't really know what you're going to do for me. And so there's a standoff right away. This dude is in my office for me to help him, but he's almost telling me I can't help him already off the bat. And problems that I can't fix because the underlying messages that have already been given to this person from the internet, the doctor, or other things that, or their environment and their brothers and uncles that have had, knee arthritis too, that have failed, right? So there's so many things that go into these complex relationships, and building rapport is like, it's an art. And I see the art in what you do, and it's intriguing. I find it useful for my practice too. So it's cool.
Well, that means a lot. It means a lot because I appreciate that you're saying those nice things. But I got to tell you, I think you are absolutely a salesperson, and I say that in a positive way. I think people have a negative connotation to that, but you really need to sell, right? You need to sell the real way and the true method of helping people, because they automatically watch these movies and these TV shows, or they go online and they read like, hey, this is surgery, or hey, you got to go to this. And you have to say, no, it's not that. It's actually much simpler.
Yeah, for sure. And
But they don't want to believe that, Steve. They really truly want to be like, no, I'm going under the knife.
because
That's the
what's
only
easy
way.
to do?
Right.
Honestly, more painful, but that's the easier answer. And I
Yeah.
think, and it's not just like I never take the easy answer. That's not saying I'm better than that or I don't, but the easiest barrier that makes the most sense is always where we tend to lean, especially when we are busy and stuff like that. Like, it's just easier to say, I got arthritis, I'm just going to deal with it. But being able to teach value on getting those patients directly to get them to hopefully change, or if I'm getting them from a doctor specifically that showed them how bad their x-rays are and they didn't know about it a week ago. There's so many dynamics that you have to take in regards. And same thing with, again, in the environment that they grew up in, if their whole family has bad knees or whatever, there's lots of different things that play a role in, just like, again, going back to your stuff, like this person is really against flipping this house or selling it to you or financing it because they have strong feelings and relationships with it, or other things influencing their life that you don't know about until you dive in and ask. You got
Right.
to put your cards out and let's look at the hand. Let's look at it
Right.
together. In healthcare, my job isn't to convince necessarily, it's to teach. These are your options. I'm going to help you decide which one's best for you. And if I have 5 patients that all have the same condition, that whether I can fix it or not, my job is to explain all of the options so they can make the right decision for them.
Yeah,
So
and that's very helpful, because I believe that you do a really good job of, you're asking the questions, and you ask those questions so that you can understand their why of being there, number one. But maybe there's some underlying issues that, hey, like for me, Steve saved my life because I had a serious, what I thought was shoulder pain, and I was completely 100% sold that this was a torn rotator cuff, and it probably could have been surgically. I could have gotten surgery on that. I think that I could have probably walked in somewhere and someone would have said, "Yeah, let's put you under. Let's figure this out." And it was not anything to do with my shoulder. It was my neck, and it was just super crazy that that someone was going to be able to take the time because he asked the questions. I feel like some people, and maybe this is just my experience in some healthcare situations where not a lot of questions are being asked, and it's more of, how can I get you out quicker? And it's not on them. I know they got a lot going on, and this is just the system that they're in. But do you feel that way too, or am I kind of out of bounds there? Is that a little off there?
No, it's exactly right. You know what I'm doing with my business and how it's completely different. And the
Well,
things
let's
that,
talk about that. I want to talk about your business and what you do differently too. So I want to give you that because I can't tell you how much you helped me, and that's why I wanted to have you on here because I know there's people that are going to be listening that you're going to be able to help. So yeah, go into what I'm sorry to cut you off, but I really wanted to get to hear what you're doing, why it's different,
yeah.
and who are the types of people that you can help.
So, very quick background of what I am and what I do. I'm a physical therapist. I went to UB for 7 years. I've been practicing PT for about 8 or 9. I started locally at a facility that was very nice. They do a great job with all patients that come in, post-operative, pre-operative, chronic pain, arthritic injuries, rotator cuff meniscus, ACLs, whatever. And that clinic was great for me to start. And I saw tons of patients. We did really well. I did well with my patients. And at some point, again, whether it's this entrepreneurial type of mode or there's this longing to kind of learn more, I felt like I was as good as I was going to be at that place after like 3 years. And then, really just pushing myself again. I don't know where this comes from, but I decided to kind of explore other options and just see, because I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just curious. It's such a big world, right? And so what I did was I got an offer from another place that did things completely opposite. So briefly, again, the first job I was seeing probably 2 or 3 patients at once. It was high efficiency. It was mentally the mode that I do really well in. It was busy. It was nonstop and helping a lot of people. And I got an offer from somebody who wanted me for the things that I have done there to do some stuff at their facility. And this place was exactly the opposite. So this place on one with people for 30 minutes, you're in and you're out, you teach. And the way we do our physical therapy, it was completely different. It was so different that I thought they were quacks. I thought this was a joke. I didn't know. Really. I thought,
Yeah.
heard about people that do things like this. And I used to kind of poke fun and poke jabs at them and stuff like that. But again, it's my curiosity and I'm not really afraid of failure, and I don't even really believe in that word. I just was like, what do I have to lose? I have another job offered that's it was even a little bit more than where I was at. So that was a nice bonus. But I'm like, what do I got to lose? I've been here my whole life. This place is on the other opposite side of the spectrum. And this place has more people going in than my place. And I thought my place was the best. So I'm like, I got to learn what these people are doing, because the worst case scenario is I was right and these people are quacks and I go get another job, or I learn something really cool and I can help people in a very different way, which I know would set me up for some future success. So I go there, and again, it's one-on-one for 30 minutes, in and out, and the treatment style is very different. It's more fixing with the person, but then teaching them how to do it themselves, and not, I don't know, this is kind of harsh, but I'm not babysitting people as much to do their stuff. I show them, I get them better in the room, and then I teach them how to do it on their own. And that's truly where I learned that, man, these people aren't quacks. These are all the people that I actually, they're thinking the same stuff I am in regards to like where healthcare needs to go, and beliefs about really where we should go with this and our role in healthcare. So that place just took my skills and my excitement for what I do to just a whole nother level. I mean, from that place, I couldn't get away from the person who's been in 10 years of pain and have degenerative disc disease. I can't go walk away and give them a hot pack, or if they hurt with an exercise, just do less. I got to go help someone else. You can't do that, which is what a lot of places are like that. And again, it's not to attack individual places. You're working the best you can in the system you're in. But it forced me to learn these different skills of asking the questions, diving deeper into pain, understanding how they get to their beliefs and where they are. And my physical skills of helping people with less equipment. I can help people in a home. I can help people when they're at work. you know, I'm a physical therapist. I get hurt too.
Yeah.
I take time off work. I have to put money on the table. I have to go to work. I still have to do the stuff I enjoy mentally to keep me healthy and physically to keep me healthy. I don't have time to go to 2 or 3 times a week to PT for 3 years.
Right.
Forced me to teach people how to be their own physical therapist. And as soon as I confirmed this belief that these guys are either crazy or they're really onto something, and I was shown these guys are really onto something and they're doing kind of what I wanted to do, I just went all in. And then it was a point of, how do I get to where I want to be? What do I want this thing to look like? And so, where do I go from there? I mean, there was some discussions at that place of me growing into being the owner of this place, but again, it just wasn't the right. It was the right place, but not at the right time with the right people. So I just knew. Again, it was one of the situations where I knew where I wanted to be wasn't going to be there. So I knew, again, it was some point of jumping into something else that I knew I wanted to get to. And eventually I made the jump to, again, another position that does home care. So I go to people's homes, but what that job does is it offered me the flexibility to build what I do. And what I do now is I do my own practice. I'm completely out of network with insurance companies. I'm cash pay healthcare, which is very rare and strange. And most people think I'm crazy until I explain reasons. I started doing telehealth and concierge because
Yeah,
those are,
and that's what we did together. And that was very helpful for me, especially for, maybe someone that does, that might be time poor, but is willing to, again, take a chance on something that's new.
yeah,
Obviously, telehealth is still very new to, at least for me. I know it's not a new thing, but it was new for me, and I'm sure for people that are, as they call them, boomers, it could be pretty new for them. But
yeah.
talk about that and how that's been a change for you, and how that came about, and maybe how that is becoming evolved, where you're really able to do exactly what you'd be able to do right in someone's home, but via
Yeah.
telehealth.
So telehealth is not new. It's new in America. It was forced on us by the pandemic to continue to be able to help people that were struggling, but we couldn't physically be there. Um, but it's been going on for decades in places like Australia and stuff like that, where, there's 150 miles before a doctor's appointment, or, so telehealth has been utilized in other parts of the world. And again, the pandemic forced the business side of it, as you're obviously, if you have a brick and mortar facility and you have to treat patients and you have bills, and all of a sudden, the government and the world shutting down, you have to still be able to help those people, but also keep your doors open. So I was into telehealth as soon as I was exposed to these new skills that I acquired and realized I don't need an Alter G treadmill. I don't need all these weights. I don't need all this to fix people's pain. Sometimes it's necessary to improve some situations, but it's not always needed. And once I was exposed to that, that's where I really gravitated. And for me, the pandemic was kind of cool because it forced others to get into what I was interested in. And it basically, for me, it proved my concept, and not just mine, others that are doing what I'm doing. It was the marketing. It forced people to do it. And it probably saved some years of seeing how it can actually help people without being hands-on. But again, there's those barriers, right? I mean, if you were a patient that went to a chiropractor for 3 years for your neck, how the hell is this going to fix me through a phone? You have to still be able to teach people how, dosing different movements or stretches can equal a manipulation over time and stuff like that. And so, again, there's a lot of education that goes into that.
Yeah, I think that one is going to be a heavily uh, an education-based model, and the people who really want to get better will do that.
And those are
And
my people.
and those are your people, because it's funny when you were talking about that one model, right, which is like that churn and burn kind of model, and you churn through uh, patients. I would even say you probably churn through employees. I mean, no way that people go to school for as long as you guys do, and then to go into that kind of environment, I know people who have quit physical therapy and they've been real estate full time, or they find something else because it's like, hey, this is not what I signed up for. But it's like, this is it. If you
Yeah.
want to do it, this is the model. But you're
Yep.
saying, Steve, there's a different way of doing it, and you're obviously doing it, and you're living it, and it's I've done both, and I would go your side every single time. So it's just interesting that you bring that up, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing.
Well, it is exactly that. And there is so many options and the ability to do this, but not to get, well, first of all, let's go into healthcare professionals. They went into healthcare because they care about helping people.
Right.
We don't know shit about business.
Right.
I'm joking, obviously, right? But we don't know business. We don't know sales,
Right.
uh, no marketing. We didn't do that. We were trained medically and we learned how to fix people, but no, very few healthcare professionals understand the importance of marketing and value and sales. And like, just because we went to school, you don't deserve shit. We've paid
Mm.
a for degree, but we're not, you have to get out there and sell your skills. And I think, again, some of this is just business and sales, and marketing is not healthcare professional strong suit. Obviously, what got them into healthcare, but um, they're very passive with wanting to learn that and understanding how it plays a huge role in a lot of it to get, what you want. And not to go off in a healthcare tangent, but insurance is the main reason for why these places are the way they are, and it's why it's so hard for me to grow and survive in what I'm trying to do.
Mm.
You know, um, when insurance, what happens is in healthcare is the way insurances basically provide you access to their patients, and they give them a discounted rate, and we sign a contract to go in network at a rate for those to access to those patients. So really that's what insurance is. We're buying at a cheaper reimbursement access to availability. So if you think about it as a whole, we've basically offloaded our sales and marketing, our ability to find people to help, to insurance companies for a huge cut that they continue to cut every year.
Hmm.
So instead of actually fixing the problem, again, why? Why are we actually doing this? This is what's going on in my head. Why are we fixing people with motor vehicle accidents for $30 or $40 a visit? Like, that's what we're getting paid? That doesn't even pay for our salary. Like, why are we signing these? But again, it's just the insurance world is again a whole nother podcast. But yeah, I mean, we're offering our discounted services for way too cheap. But at the same token, I understand a little bit about why insurances do that. I mean, and again, this isn't a bash on PTs. It's not a bash on chiros. It's not a bash on surgeons, but there's lots of good surgeons. There's bad surgeons too. There's terrible physical therapists. There's great chiros. It's not a profession thing. But when you have that wide mix of what you get for a certain condition, there's so much deviation in the quality that the insurance company has to get some general estimate of, okay, well, if one person provides this much quality and the other one provides this much, we have to pay all those people this much to make our money, right? So that's what it is. And if I believe I'm one of these guys, I need to prove it, and I'm going to do
Right.
it. I'm
Right.
not going to pay for this payment
Right.
because it's making it harder for me to treat my patient, because I have to do 30 minutes of paperwork. I don't have time to ask the right questions of, oh, Marty, your pain's in your shoulder. By the way, is it harder to turn your neck? Do you have numbness and tingling down your hand? Does your hand feel a little weaker? No one asks you that because they don't got time, right? So because of my stubbornness to accept insurance payments at these places, I now have the freedom and time to be able to provide a higher quality, which I know I can do, and seek people out that won't get better or don't get better or who have already failed the system. So in my mind, I will never, my job is with what I do is never to replace brick and mortar PT. Some people need brick and mortar. They need the hands, they need the heat, they need the stim. But there is a group of people that I target and I filter and siphon, just like a surgeon. If a surgeon does just shoulders and he only wants to take the non-smoking rotator cuff tears, he siphons those patients and fixes them. I do the same thing. And I get the people I know I'm going to do well with, and the people that I think could do better with other places or other things, I'll outsource them to the other people.
What's so scary, Steve, is that you're the smallest, tiny minority compared to the majority of
Hmm.
how typically physical therapists and I'm sure all sort of
It's
healthcare.
it's lonely.
Yeah, yeah,
They're all they're far and few in between for sure.
it's very scary because as a country as a whole, if that's kind of what we're doing, I just can't imagine just the people that are getting they're just they're flying under the radar. They're getting misdiagnosed. They're not really getting the full treatment. And again, it's not on the doctor. It's the system that is failing Americans, and it's failing people who really need the help. And the biggest problem I think is out of all of this is take the money aside. It's you think about everybody that becomes a doctor to help people, and they go, fuck this. This is
Hmm.
not what I signed up for. But you get a job, and then you have a kid, and then you have a house you got to pay for, and now it's like this is
Yeah.
your life until you retire, and then it's
Yep.
I,
And
I,
then
I just can't imagine.
constantly asking to see more patients because insurance is cutting benefits. So instead of 75 patients a week, you got to see 80 the next year. And then you got to see 85. And you just continue to churn and burn because insurances have almost, I don't think they've ever raised physical therapy reimbursement once. They cut it every year, every single year. So it's a really, if you did a podcast with all different healthcare professionals, a lot of them are dealing with serious anxieties about what we're talking about. I mean, it's just a never ending cut for what you're trying to do. And it's funny because the cost of healthcare just continues to rise, and it's exposing the problem. But again, the positive spin of that is the enormous amount of potential to fix people that are unfortunately being mistreated, overutilized, getting x-rays and MRIs that do not need to be taken, getting surgeries. Believe it or not, 11% of surgeries are on the wrong body part.
Yeah,
And
I remember you told me that.
that's because truly surgeons they make decisions solely on images, and they don't do a pain assessment. They don't do repeated motions to understand sources of pain. And just like you had said, to go to you again, right?
Hmm.
You came with a shoulder injury that you thought was a shoulder, and you're not stupid because you didn't know. You did nothing wrong. You thought it was your shoulder. And if you went to your primary care, you went to an ortho, they'd take an x-ray of your shoulder because that's your main complaint. And you're what, 33?
Yep.
So guessing based on the relative numbers for a 50-year-old, if we took an image of your left shoulder, there's a probably a 30% chance you have a torn rotator cuff right now as we speak, and it's asymptomatic and there's no loss of function. So
Wow.
we can image findings, and there's probably a 25% chance you have some arthritis in there already. But that's it's not related to your problem. It's a finding, it's there.
Right.
But obviously, if you go in with the main complaint of a shoulder and we find images and that's their best way of how to solve the problem, you're right. You could have gone under the knife, and your problem wasn't there.
Mm.
So that leads down to a whole nother road of possibilities. But yeah, I mean, I can name all the areas of the body and what images can produce asymptomatic findings that are normal without pain and with pain. So that just adds to the complexity. And PTs and healthcare professionals, the good ones, have been trying to educate the public on that for a long time. Well, 5 to 10 years, we've really realized that damage and pain are two different things, and there is such thing as asymptomatic findings, and they're all over the body. But again, the problem is everywhere. I don't know where do you start? Do you start with insurances and blame insurance companies? Do you start with the public not knowing enough? Or do you blame it on the fact that primary cares are still the gatekeeper to healthcare? They're the first stop for the boomers. That's all they know. But they know very little about musculoskeletal pain, actually. We're the specialists, but it takes 3 or 4 steps to get there. Well, you don't have time. You're flipping houses. You're working hard, and other people have a baby. They don't have time to go to these 3 or 4 steps, waste money on unnecessary stuff. So again, there's endless ways to try to fix this, but it's so enormous, and there's so many things working against it. But um, it's just continued. It's just continued education and just providing honest healthcare, and that's all you can really do. I mean, I could talk about the problems are all over. So
Well, one of the things that you said that was really interesting to me when we talked before and we've talked off camera is about pain, and just like the way that pain, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right? I mean, there's some pain. You've said, pain's very interesting in that it's, you might feel a pain here, but it's actually there, and you really dive in on people and really want to find out the pain. Can you talk about that and just like the
Yeah.
dynamics of pain?
Yeah. So pain is very complex. Inherently, pain is good. Pain is an alarm system. So all it's telling you to signal is change. It's like hunger. Hunger is telling you to fucking eat, right? Alive. Pain is to keep you alive. That's what it's for, right? If I take my finger right now and I stretch it, that feels good. If I keep going, okay, just cracked. Okay, okay, okay. And if I go quick, like that hurt, right? Did I just damage my finger? No, I didn't, because I stopped because it hurt.
Right.
So pain stops you before damage, right? So inherently, pain is a good thing. It's an alarm system. It's to keep you alive, and it's changeable, and it's also influenced by what patients and most people don't understand is it's not just influenced by mechanical input, right? It is influenced by so many different things. It's influenced by your beliefs. How much you know about pain is so important to actually getting people's pain to go away. Believe it or not, I know that sounds a little voodoo and crazy, but it's not. Pain is adaptable to the environment, right? If you grew up in a house, again, going back to, if your dad had a shoulder injury his whole life and it took him out of his work and he had to retire because of that, that would play a role in your likelihood of in your prognosis and the amount of time to get you better. I did this post a while ago on, it was just a really weird thought I had when I was running, because that's when I'm like smartest, when I'm running.
Yeah, me
And
too.
and I thought, man, pain is a lot like money in a way. And the reasons I kind of got to that without trying to get too much into it, but money, there's a number to it, right? There's an objective number, but think of something generic. Like, I think my post was, if I have $1,000, should I spend that money? What's your answer? What comes to your mind?
Yes.
Okay. What makes you say that?
Because I like to spend money, but I like to more invest money in things. So I don't like to keep money. I know that's kind of against things, but a lot of times if I have money, I'm figuring out a way to put it into something that's going to grow my money.
Okay, so you see potential of that. What if you had a family and you had a baby at home who had $900 in bills per month?
Sure. Yeah,
Would that,
I'm going to say, yeah, that changes things. Yeah, absolutely.
do the point of the post was, we need more information than that, you dummy. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You
Look
have
at
a
me. Like immediately someone's like, I got an opportunity. Here's $1,000. What do you do? Let's go. What do you got?
but
That's
but the
different.
questions that precipitate is like, dude, we need more information.
Right.
Are you saying I have $1,000 for the rest of my life? Are you
Right.
saying I have a job that I make $1,000 for every 2 weeks? Do I have a family I have to feed? Do I have daycare? Do you
Right.
do you, do you live in a country where $1,000 is a ton of money, or do you live in New York City where $1,000 is nothing? So
No
the
doubt.
post is that your personality and your lifestyle and your goals and your knowledge affect that number and make it more or less valuable. Your environment, where you physically live, changes $1,000, whether you're in New York City or if you're in Syracuse. That $1,000 is different money. It's different. So
Absolutely.
the reason, and again, my goal for that post was to get people to be like, dude, we need more info. It doesn't make sense. Do I have what do you mean? And that's the complexities of pain. Going back to a pain and how it's a little bit more complex. Like, and again, this is an example I give with like a lot of my patients. So if you're walking into the street and you have to cross the street and you trip down the curb and you sprain your ankle and you're laying in the road, does your ankle hurt? Of course it does.
Yeah.
Well, if the car is coming and lays its horn on because it's about to kill you, does your ankle hurt anymore?
No.
Believe it or not, no. Your brain
Yeah.
actually it off because it realizes there's a bigger threat. So your brain actually sends signals down to shut that pain off so you can survive the bigger threat.
Makes
Pain,
sense.
pain is similar in ways where, you know, a lot of people get kind of ostracized or picked on with people with chronic pain and fibromyalgia and these type of conditions, which are real conditions that unfortunately most people don't understand. So it's just easier to say they're crazy. But what happens is the nervous system, the alarm system, becomes hyper vigilant. They've been dealing with it for so long that if, you know, going back to the alarm system example, if someone breaks into my house right now, the alarm will go off. Okay. What happens in patients like that is they have had pain for so long and the alarm system's gone on for so long that it gets louder. And what happens is the body starts to lay down more cameras because it can't, the problem's not solved. So it gets louder, it gets overprotective as an adaptation to try to keep you alive. So then rehab for those kind of conditions, it's on education, it's on exercise, but there's more complexities to it on how to bring the cameras down and get back to really what's a threat and what's not. So again, it's a little bit,
I love that. I love that because I think that's so good that pain is something that it could be a good sign. It could be a bad sign. There's more to it. That's why, like you said, you got to ask questions.
Yep.
And that's where, you know, one of the things I think about at times, and it's got to be tough, is that, you know, people will go, well, Steve, ow, that hurts. I don't want to do that. It's like, but that's what's going to get you better. And here's an example, right? So when my lower back hurt, you said, you know, get on your stomach and then basically do like a cobra, right? You do that cobra up. And if you guys don't know what that looks like, just Google it and you'll see it. But that hurt very bad the first time I did it. And then the second time I did it, it hurt a little bit bad. It didn't hurt as bad, I should say. But then the third and fourth time, it didn't hurt at all. And then my
Yeah.
back started to feel better. So that's got to be tough to kind of get that into people's skulls is like,
It's
hey,
scary.
yeah, yeah. So is that another thing about just building the rapport and talking to them and saying, listen, you got to get them to trust you that like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm
That's
here
the
to help you, right?
that's the art, that's the rapport. And again, you know, pain is a very difficult language, right? Again, I'm medically trained and you have to be able to speak the language that the patient speaks to be able to get all your medical jargon out to someone who hears it in a different way. So it's, you know, we use these pain metaphors, they're called. It's called pain neuroscience education, where really the whole system is developing a common language to get all my nerdy science out in a way that's perceivable and digestible to the patient, you know. And for that example, I could probably tell you what I told you. I probably told you, does it hurt when you have a sliver in your hand and you push it out? Well, unfortunately it does, right? But why do we keep doing it? We keep doing it because we realize it's actually getting better as we push.
Right.
And for an example, man, if we pushed on it 10 times and it hurt, but afterwards you realize I can move my thumb way more. Now I can squeeze and it's like, it's better. So pain has to be attached to other variables that help you decide if it's a good pain or not, right? If you know, going to a back pain example again, if someone had a back injury and, you know, I check their motion and let's say, ooh, that motion's really stiff and it hurts. There's their pain right there, right? And I back and I say, ooh, that's it right there, right in my sacroiliac, right on the dimple, right where my chiropractor told me my leg is longer than the other, right? It's right there. Yep.
Yep.
And go do a stretch and it's hitting that spot, but we're just nudging it, right? We got to learn about it. And I'm talking through this with the patient. I said, we got to learn about it because it's there. If we don't do anything, you hurt worse. You told me. If I sit and do nothing, I get stiffer. And I teach that's your body's way of telling you not doing that more, do that less, right?
So good.
So actually telling them why I'm thinking, I'm interpreting what the body's telling me. And that's what I do. When I get in those situations, I say, listen, I'm not ever going to do anything to you that I think is going to be harmful. I'm on your team, right?
Right.
I'm here to help you. This is why would I ever do anything to hurt you? And then I'm explaining the reasons about why I'm thinking that. Well, you said, let me make sure this is right. If you sit for 30 minutes and you get out of the car, you have to walk out of there and get loosened back up. Is that right? And yeah, first thing in the morning, are you really stiff and painful? Yeah, but then it's better once I get moving. So your body just told me moving helps,
Mm,
and not moving makes things worse. And by the way, when you sit, you're in flexion. So that's bending, right? So if knees to chest stretching is bending, and your body's telling me that's not the motion that do, and it's making you worse, well, guess what we should probably do? We should start to work on the opposite, because that's what your body's telling me. It's telling you to move you more, and it's telling me not to flex you, which is making you more problematic. We got to go the other way. And it hurts because we're getting to the problem. But
right.
again, all these other variables play a big role in this. Has a previous chiropractor or PT always flexed them, and temporarily that would make them feel good. But you're here because your back pain, you told me your back pain's getting worse, right? Oh
Right.
yeah, definitely getting worse. That's why I'm here. And you said what your chiropractor did helped. Can you explain that? So again, I'm making them kind of defend the beliefs that got them to
Right.
where they are. Well, I can definitely see how that might provide temporary relief, but you're telling me it's getting more painful to go up and down the stairs, and you can barely get out of your car. You're getting worse, it sounds. Yeah, you know what? You're right. So I just again use I use I put things into a frame that's understandable, and I interpret and spit it out in a language that's digestible, and that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and it's so helpful for people who don't know what's going on, and they can't tell you other than you can see from their movement. And obviously, this is just being a doctor, right? These are
Mhm,
things that you pick up on as you learn, but it
mhm.
really is something that, and I'm telling you guys, he does it whether he's in front of you or in person or through, some sort of, iPad or your Apple phone. It's really incredible. And that's why I really needed you here so that you could tell people and I need to get better at this too, because there's times where I'm like, I should probably, have you as on like a monthly thing. And I think that's a big thing that I think that's going to happen more is people are going to start going, especially the high performers who really want to get the best out of their abilities is they're going to need to have someone like you that is
Mhm.
on like a monthly, hey, I need to see a monthly. And it's like it just becomes it becomes like a Netflix, but it's like, yeah, but that shit is, rotting your brain at like
And for me,
$18 an hour. But if you did it for $100 a month, I can help you. I can literally make
yeah,
you feel great.
yeah. And what I do is I trim the fat. So again, that's where this overutilization. It's nothing against what I used to do, but if I think back to the treatments I used to do for someone with back pain to what I do now, but again, that's my infinite curiosity to get better, and again for my own career to trim the fat, get better, get more efficient. And so that is a part of it. And you know where my business is going, and I really think where healthcare needs to go, is to get more fluid. And we don't, truly, like I hope I'm able to say, is that healthcare professionals are extremely smart, and we're the skill. It's not the equipment, it's not the gym, it's not the stim pads that buzz you, it's not even manipulations. No matter how skilled a chiropractor or PT tells you are, manipulations are general. They're not specific. If someone pokes you and says that's your L4, it's out of place. That's not been proven with any science. It's not true. They're general. And, again, it's not to bash one or the other, but this stuff is really, it's teachable. It's teachable, but there's a lot of science and knowledge that goes into how to deliver it. And there's an art to it. And you're right. I see a lot of future with my career in being more fluid and less barriers, right? So again, I started with the telehealth. I do concierge. I go to people's homes with my treatment table and all the stuff I need to get people better. News to you, I haven't told you yet. I actually just signed the lease yesterday. I have a space.
Wow, congrats,
Yeah.
dude.
So I got a little space in the village of Spencerport at the perfect spot at the perfect price for me to help people. Because again, my job and my goals are not to prove that brick and mortar healthcare facilities shouldn't exist. That's not true. They should. My goal in my career is to decrease the barriers to provide higher quality access at any point in time. Whether
Mm,
it's a job and you get hurt flipping a house and you can't move your back, I can get you on a phone or I can come there. If someone's walking around Spencerport, I can get them there. It's about availability and decreased barriers. So I believe instead of 100% of a business and PT world being in a brick and mortar facility, I can treat 20 million people in New York State, and 16 million of them have back pain right now.
I just have to say that you guys can tell that Steve gives an F, and you want somebody who cares, and he really does. And I know a lot of people do, but he can come with a passion and with an enthusiasm that if you haven't had that before, or if you're kind of like sick of having the same experience of just kind of ho hum, and you need to change up, someone who's going to put in some real life and really get to the problem and not just try to gloss over it, this is the guy to go see. So,
Hey, let me ask you a question.
yeah.
I appreciate the plug. How many visits did I see you for your neck? Do you remember?
Man, so there was a few in person, and then we did a couple, but but I've been a mess. I had my knee, I was with you,
Well,
I had my lower back, and
so
they all kind of blend together, but it
so
was, I'll say this. The first time I saw you about my shoulder, in that first 20 minutes, it went from a shoulder to a neck problem, and my neck after that adjustment felt better immediately. And I couldn't sleep the night before. So I
yeah.
couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. That's why that day I made that appointment, and you were
Hmm.
able to see me. And
Yeah.
in that quick time, just stretching the neck and those weird funky things that made me do it. I'm not going to do it on my camera, but I'm sure you can do them, and you'll show people. It immediately provided relief, and that's what I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, exactly. So in your problem, in everyone's problem's a little different, believe it or not. Your problem was like, dude, I gotta go to work. I need to get this solved quick. Talking's over. I need to get you some change right now and prove to you this thing is not an emergency. It's okay. Again, other people coming in, their thoughts and their beliefs and their how long they dealt with it are a little different. So again, every person's a little different on how you attack it. And it's again relating to your business, every single person that's needs your help to help them get out of a situation, it's so different that your strategies are so different per person. There's no easy way to do it, man. You just have to be adaptable and learn how to speak to someone and gain rapport. But yeah, I guess where I was going with that was, if going back to the plug on me, I guess, is my big thing is I try to get people better much more quickly, much more efficiently. I trim the fat. And again, it's to get people better without halting their life. It's to continue doing what they want to do, just as I do. I teach people to be their own physical therapist. I fix it with you. Again, I compare myself to a car mechanic that fixes your problem in the shop with you. What I do differently, instead of just giving you a card and a bill, and this is great, thank you so much, we'll see you next time. I say, do you want to learn how to change your own oil so you never have to pay me again for this? Do you want to show you how to fix your own tires? Like, as a millennial who has student loans up the ass and has a family, I want to do everything that I can and invest that money. I'm similar in that way, that I want to invest and grow in my financial freedom. So I respect that out of my patients, to not force feed false information that, yeah, you need to see me for 6 months, twice a week because your knee hurts and it's arthritic. No. Let's back off on that a little bit. I need to teach and we need to move this first before we get to that. So
Yeah, and that's why you sold me. And it wasn't that was the reason. I already knew that I trusted you just because of the way you are. But that kind of point of like, listen, buddy, I don't want to see you again.
yeah,
Like,
I
listen,
for
I
the
don't.
real world. I want to buy a beer with you at the restaurant or the bar. Like,
Right.
that's my goal. And I want to fix you so quickly that you tell all your neighbors and your friends about how amazing that experience was. Man, I have these examples all the time, but I had this lady who was going to a chiropractor for 3 years for what was called piriformis syndrome, which is basically a syndrome that has not been proven by medicine, that the piriformis actually tightens and causes sciatic symptoms. If you got symptoms down your leg, it's coming from your back. Okay. But my job was not to prove to her chiropractor was wrong. Because if I said that the second she got there, she would have walked out and said, fuck you, man. This
Yeah.
guy's been helping me for 2 years. How dare you say that?
Right.
The way you speak and the way you kind of dive into stuff at certain times. And by the way, where this is going was, she was finished with me, and she told me she was 95% better in 3 visits, and I didn't touch, and it was coming from her back. So again, it's not to brag, but it's again about more questions. It's about giving people locus of control. It's not an external, giving you the locus of control to fix this, but also, a big part of it is having the correct diagnosis too. So, yeah, it's a bit, it's fun, man. It's complex. It's complex and simple at the same time. It's an art, and it's exciting. So,
Well, this guy really cares, and I want to be cognizant of his time. I know he's a family, he's got to go. But I just want to say, Steve, where can they find you? Where can people find you? Where can they go? Where are you? How can people get a hold of you to book an appointment?
so you can find me at retrievept.com. On my website currently, I got some updating to do with obviously the news I just told you, but I'm open to telehealth appointments. I have a whole bunch of hours as I work another part-time job. I do concierge visits, so I go to people's homes. I've gone to a hotel room for someone who flew in and couldn't get off the plane and couldn't sleep. I did a back evaluation there. I can go to people's jobs. Again, that's where the concierge and telehealth come into play. And in the near future, 138 South Union Street in the village of Spencerport, right above Grandpa Sam's. That's where I'm going to be building my little brick and mortar facility to offer more. So lots of changes coming, and I'm just like, I yesterday was a bit surreal for sure. It's just like, it's just the opportunity I've been really waiting for and trying to be patient, and that's something that's hard.
Absolutely.
Am I perfect? Am I ready for taking over the world? But it's these small steps that you continue to take action on, and you get these little glimmers that happen, and it makes it all worthwhile. But at the same time, you don't take the foot off the gas. You just have to get excited, and there's a lot of people that need help. There's so many people that need my help. It's scary, but exciting, at the same time. So.
Well, I'm pumped, man. I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you. No one deserves it more than you. But guys, that's it. That's the show. Go reach out to Steve. He's on Facebook.
Hey,
He just told you where his website was.
one more thing. You got more time?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I got one more thing because I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I was like, why is this guy, healthcare guy on there? I was running, right?
Yeah.
And
Hey, hold on. Did you run today?
I did not run today.
Did you work out today?
No, I didn't.
Mm.
During the summer, I golf every morning, 9 holes at 5:30 in the morning before the baby's up, and I get home by 7:30. I do that 3 days a week, and then the other days I run. But in the summer, truly, my exercise is my housework, my yard work. I'm doing stuff all the time, and
Right.
not to get back into PT too much, but my exercise is my life, and my maintenance is knowing what I do and don't do in life, and I offset that. So again, everyone's life's a little different on really what should be prescribed and how little and how much, but everyone's is so different. Some people need to back off and do mobility. Some people need to do more and strengthen. Again, that's a little bit of an art to it. But one thing I wanted to talk about with you, dude, because
Yeah.
again, I get so excited about what you guys do, and I really know shit about it. But for some reason, it gets me so excited, and I want to get in at some point about real estate, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But dude, I've had these conversations with you and how we have such different jobs and careers, but how there's so many things that relate and how we actually can help each other. I know we've talked about this briefly, but I had more ideas that I wanted to tell you because I think it would actually apply to the people, obviously, that I think you're going to show this to.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, what drives people out of their homes to need your services? What is the problem? I'm asking you.
Yeah. And this is a really good question because it takes a good question to find that answer because you're not going to get that up front unless they're extremely frantic, right? If someone's coming to you with an emergency, you'll get that. The driver of why people need to get out of their home is that there is a serious problem, like in regards to the house, let's just say, is a weight on them. It's a legitimate burden. And it could be a number of reasons if you want me to get into those.
Get into one or two of them.
So one of the ones that we find a lot is through a death in the family. Aunt Sally died and she left a house in Rochester and you're in Florida and you got the house. You don't really need, you don't know what you're doing with it. You want to get out of it. The other one is a tired landlord.
Yeah.
You got a landlord who's owned the property for 40 years. He's 75. He's like, I'm done with it.
Hmm.
I need to get this thing gone and I don't want to list it. So those are kind of
Yeah.
the big two.
So where I was going with this is because obviously I told you I'm going into homes and I'm helping people that have unfortunately suffered medical events that
Mm.
lead to this. And I would imagine, again, I'm not a know-it-all and I don't know, but I would imagine most of the people that are in your groups and follow you are mostly financial based, right? They can't do this house and there's financial reasons as to why. And I
Correct.
you understand clearly, again, there's some other reasons that finances probably tie into that as well. But one thing I've realized that I think, if I can offer anything that's maybe surprising is I look at things in a medical through medical glasses, right? I think most of your people probably look financially or investment wise, money wise. But one thing I was thinking about was I think I had told you, I said, man, I'm treating someone right now that actually probably needs you. They're looking to get rid of their house. They cannot deal with this. And I wish I could give you that information, but I can't because HIPAA
Right.
law,
Yeah.
that it's just not legal. It's not something I can do. But man, I
Right.
wish I could find a way to do that. So one thing I was thinking about was running is if I could teach you guys anything about what I do and how it might relate to your business immediately, is you talk a lot about cold calling, right?
Yeah.
Cold probably produces X% of an actual sale. Maybe it's 1%. I don't know the number, 5%, whatever, who knows?
Yeah.
But I mentioned a lot about cold calling. And what I would recommend, and maybe this is a little bit out of my zone and maybe I'm way off, but if I drive by a house and there's a metal ramp leading to their front door, you better go into that house. Or if they're outside and they're struggling to get the garbage can and they got a metal ramp, I would pull over and offer some help to that guy. Because
Wow. That's a slick trick.
well,
That
well,
is really
metal
good.
why is that metal ramp there? Do you know why? Because I know why.
Right.
The metal ramp is there because they can't get in and out of their house without a ramp, which means they're physically incapable of getting in and out of their house, which means if you catch them at the right time or if they're struggling enough, you would be able to solve a problem for them. So if you went into a house with 100 houses and none of them have ramps, your cold call percent would probably be 1% or whatever. If you go into a facility or a track with 100 houses and 10 of them have metal ramps in the front and the other 10 have garage doors open and there's a walker and a wheelchair there, or you drive by and there's a car with a handicap sticker in the car, those cold call percents got to be double or triple, at least that.
That's really good. And I agree because, that's such like they're trying to quick fix something with the metal ramp, right? It's expensive, but whatever. But the whole house isn't going to be accessible for someone that has a handicap. They gotta downsize into something that's going to be that's going to be more appropriate for this, for their, for
Yeah.
their new life. If this is something that they have going on, a stroke, whatever it might be, that there's a reason why there's a metal ramp there. So, dude, that's really good. I've never heard that. No one's ever said that. So that's really interesting.
There's all those medical things. And again, if I was to just somehow get involved in real estate, knowing my medical side and having those little tidbits that I think are actually useful, I know it sounds crazy, but if I see an older gentleman, taking 10 minutes to get to his mailbox with a walker, truly as a healthcare professional, I'm going to just go talk to that guy and be nice to him. And if you were to be able to approach people, almost think of yourself as not a medical professional, but if you're going there and just trying to create some rapport with somebody, I think a lot of those times you could actually solve some problems because again, with those ramps, with the handicap stickers, the walkers, the wheelchairs in the driveway, those people, it's just a waiting game before they have to get out of their house. Unfortunately, it's a problem that at some point, whether it's new or eventually, they might be struggling and they don't have family to solve their problems and stuff like that. So it's just a thought that I had that I don't know. I just
Really
felt
good.
I knew it was probably something you guys haven't thought about, but also it could come off probably negatively with the wrong context. I mean, it's not taking advantage of these people, but they're having issues. And if
Right.
you were to help them solve those problems, that's what you do. You solve people's problems with them. I do the same thing. So I just thought that was a unique way and possibly into helping some situations. And, being
100%.
being able to build that rapport like you can is so important. And hey, let me help you walk, let me help you get back. And how long you been in the house? And you know how to develop rapport. I've heard you say it in your posts all the time. You do it really well. And the little conversations sometimes lead really far and can get you never know. So I don't know. I just thought that was a random idea that I had to get off my chest, whether I'm
I thought
completely.
no, it's great. I truly believe that can be very helpful. I mean, obviously, not everybody's going to want to leave their house with a ramp. Obviously, that's not what you're saying, but I get actually the real theme in the message of it being, hey, if this is something that might look new in your neighborhood or in an area that you're looking to invest in, again, people don't know their options. They think this is all they have is like, hey, no one's going to want this house, especially now that I have this metal ramp here. And now I have to kind of figure out how my new life is, having this, maybe disability, and I have to adjust to what my previous home was. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, there's a better way. I can buy your property, right? And
yeah,
I'll pay a fair value for the condition. And now you can take that money and go and move into something that's going to be ADA
yeah.
accessible.
I treated someone earlier this week she's 93. She lives alone. She's had a metal ramp for 15 years. She can only get out of the ramp, but I'm telling you, she should probably be, with how often she falls and gets hurt. She's got a daughter that moved up from North Carolina to help her. Her husband has passed, and she's been in her home for a very long time. But if you approach it the right way and with sincerity and understanding, why these people stay in their homes when maybe it's not the best option or they don't have any other options, at least providing a card and a number to help. And there are other options. If you ever, need some help, let me know and we could help you get that answer or something like that. But I just thought that it would be, with how motivated and excited and how differently you think out the box, I thought that might be a tidbit of information that might be nowhere near where you maybe think off the bat. But again, I drive all the time and I'm looking at houses and I see a ramp and I see, those type of things, but that's the way I think. So again, it's just a curious thing that I thought about that could be a whole nother reason to why people might need your services. It's mainly financial, but there's also medical reasons to why people need help getting out of their house. And, so I don't know, it's something that crossed my mind, and I had it in my backup in case I didn't know what we are going to be talking about.
It's so good.
So who knows, but yeah, I don't know.
So good. Uncle Steve coming up with different ideas for everybody. He's got ideas and they're good. That's the best part.
Some of them are good. You just got to filter them out and try.
Well, running's a big help with
Yeah,
that, and my best ideas, and I'm sure same with you, come when I'm doing it.
yeah.
Well, guys, that's it. Unless Steve's got any more ideas for us.
That's it. I had one good. Just be aware of those, because those again are out there, and I just thought it would be something to bring up. So
It was excellent. I've never heard it before, and I'm not even going to tell people what I'm going to do with it, but I know what I'm going to do with it. So I appreciate you, Steve. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. That's the show. Peace.
Thank you for tuning into the Marty Grizzanti Show. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, leave us an honest rating and review. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow us for weekly episodes.